Hey rockers, it's yet another rock and roll tale, and tonight we're going to talk about the band Gwar. Yeah, could you do me a favor before we get started? And if you haven't subscribed, would you consider subscribing to the channel? It's really growing thanks to you guys, and I appreciate it and have a ton of great stories. The more subscribers I get, the more wild the stories are going to get, that's for sure. But again, tonight we're talking about Gwar. Yeah, these guys are amazing, man. I'm telling you, I got to see them, and you're going to hear about this from June 13th, 1992 at St. Louis, Missouri's Mississippi Nights. The opening act was the Melvins. What a show. What a story. You might want to sit back for this one. There's some crazy stuff that happens at the end after the show was even over. So to get into it, man, let's talk about the Melvins. The Melvins were the opening act, and they feature, of course, King Buzzo, Buzz Osborne on vocals and guitar. The drummer, of course, is Dale Crover. Very respected in the business. This guy has a heck of a history of being, well, he was in a band pre-Nirvana with Kurt Cobain, and actually, it was called Fecal Matter. Yep, before Nirvana, and they actually did some jamming and recording, and he recorded with Nirvana before they actually became Nirvana, and they recorded a 10-song demo in 1988. Some of those songs ended up, I think, being used on the Bleach album, and when Dale was in the band, Dale Crover, they were called Ted, Ed, Fred, with Kurt Cobain, yeah. Basically, the Melvins are one of those bands that's still going today, and they're killer. Their legion of fans are very dedicated. I've gotten to see them a few times over the years, including opening for White Zombie and Kiss. Those stories are coming. The band combined punk music with a strong Black Sabbath influence, and they really did influence a hell of a lot of bands, including Soundgarden and Nirvana and Tool, and they had a very sludgy sound. Mike Patton was influenced by these guys, and Mike Patton's done a lot of stuff. Also, Corey from Slipknot, Corey Taylor. Buzz Osborne from the Melvins actually introduced Kurt Cobain to Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic. So there's a lot of ties to Nirvana, which probably gets a little annoying to the Melvins, but it's history. The band was named, by the way, after a supervisor at a thriftway store that Buzz Osborne worked at. The supervisor was not liked by the employees or Buzz. His name was Melvin. So they thought it would be ridiculous to call the band Melvins or the Melvins. Some of you guys might know this stuff. Some of you may not. But I got to tell you, man, they were killer on stage. Very intense, very captivating, and very noisy. And at the time, I had never heard the Melvins, I'll admit it. This was my first experience with those guys. I do not have the exact set list, but I do have the set list they were doing in the 1992 era, including Hung Bunny, Euthanasia, At a Crawl, Second Coming, which is an Alice Cooper song, Sacrifice, which is a song by the punk band Flipper. Then they did another Cooper cover, The Ballad of Dwight Fry. What a classic, man. Also, Heater Moves and Eyes, It's Shoved, Roman Dogbird, Boris, Anaconda, Creepy Smell, love that title, If I Had an Exorcism, love that title even more, and then, of course, Night Goat. Yeah, the Melvins were definitely awesome and definitely unique and one of a kind. Those guys were great. The show that night was $14. That's what the ticket cost to see Gwar and the Melvins. Now, of course, before I talk about Gwar, for those of you that are uninitiated to Gwar, they are a theatrical band. They use humor, they use acting, and they use props. So none of this stuff is to be taken seriously enough to get offended or freaked out by. It's just a theatrical play set to like thrash metal, punk rock and roll, and very, very much an assault on your senses and mine. Gwar, they're an American satirical band that formed in Virginia in 1984, best known for their very strange monster costumes, and of course they're using vulgar language in their songs. Oh, not that. Their obscene stage performances, which involved mock as in acting, violence, slaughter, and profanity, and of course they were meant to scare, frighten, shock, and amuse people, which is what they did. And seeing them live is like no other band. Not even Kiss has the craziness on stage that Gwar has, and still does to this day. Of course, the original singer, Dave Brockie, rest in peace, is gone, and as another member of the band died originally too. But Dave Brockie is really the most well-known, I think. These guys actually won a Grammy Award, by the way, for what they do on stage. So, yeah. They've also got a full-length film that came out in 1992 called Phallus in Wonderland, which I highly recommend. It is a complete trip. Some of the characters in the band Gwar had interesting names. Dave Brockie was the singer, and he went by the name Odorous Urungus. Love that guy. There was also the Sexecutioner, a female named Slymenstra Hyman who ran around and did all kinds of crazy stuff. Ballsack, the Jaws of Death, Beefcake the Mighty, Nipples Erectus, and Flatus Maximus. Those are the names of the guys in Gwar and the girls. And they also had a lot of extras on stage, a lot of different characters coming out. And I'm telling you, man, this was the America Must Be Destroyed tour, which was their third album by the band Gwar. The first two albums were Hello, of course, in 1980, and Scumdogs of the Universe in 1990. 1990, yeah. One of the best records in hard rock and metal, in my opinion. The Solomonizer has to be one of the best songs ever written. I love the lyrics to that song, man. Again, these guys were a major assault on the senses. Me and some friends drove from Peoria, Illinois, two of us, I don't remember who, and we actually met some old friends at the show, met some new friends out front, and we partied like, well, the teenagers that we were. Was I a teenager? I think I was in my 20s at this point. But man, oh man, did we party. We got to St. Louis and we had a little time to kill before the show, so we got to see the whole thing. Again, when these guys came out on stage, it was immediately, I mean, within 20 minutes we were worn out, even though this went on for a long time. It was a long show. And there was like naked dudes that were near naked jumping off of amps and coming out from behind the amps. There was people being beheaded. There was blood spurting out of these people's, when they're being beheaded, it looked, it looked fake, but it was fun because the lighting in there was dark with lots of smoke. And when they play, they have all kinds of recorded sounds going on in the background, like cop sirens and bombs kind of going through the air and people screaming and there's crying while the band's playing with all these effects and people running around the stage like insanity, man. Really, really intense stuff, man. There was people getting their arms cut off and blood spurting out of open holes, like people had turned on a faucet and sprayed it at the audience. I'm talking gallons and gallons of fake blood. This stuff was coming out of that place like insane. It even said right on the ticket stub, "We are not responsible for damaged clothing." Let me tell you, if you were within the first 30 rows of a Gwar show, you're getting covered in this fake blood, and it's sticky, it's overwhelming, and if you're in the first few rows, you are just drenched in this stuff. I'm talking, it was happening constantly, just gallons and gallons of fake blood being squirted at the audience from people having their heads cut off, arms cut off. It was just insane, man. At one point, they had a cop come out, a fake cop, of course, pointing a gun at Odorous Urungus, shooting him, and then the band attacked the guy and beat him as Odorous ate part of his face, which was made out of some kind of plastic silicone or something. It was insane. And they beat this guy down, this actor, with swords, and they were kicking him. It was just insanity, man. They also had Slymenstra Hyman came out and did this really cool fire act where she was holding these like fire, I don't know what the words are, but they're like torches. And she did a really cool fire thing with that on stage. I do remember that being very awesome, man. They had a mini T-Rex dinosaur. It looked like a baby dinosaur that came out on stage, and it looked real vicious, like made out of metal with these big sharp teeth. One of the guys in Gwar had his head in the thing's mouth for a while. I thought the guy was going to actually disappear in this dinosaur's mouth, but that didn't happen. They also had somebody dressed up as then President Bush, and they ended up beheading him, and the blood was just spurting out all over the audience, all over the stage. It was really manic and crazy. Then presidential elect, who wasn't a president yet, Bill Clinton, also was represented on stage with somebody dressed as Bill Clinton, smoking weed, but of course not inhaling. And then there was a guy dressed as the Pope. So those of you that are mega religious, don't get offended. It's just satire, guys. But they also did some crazy stuff to the Pope that ended up with his head being chopped off, blood spurting everywhere. There was things going on that stage that I can't mention. It was over the top, man. There was stuff that would probably get me kicked off YouTube if I mentioned it. Use your imagination. Gwar was insane. People were going crazy. It was nuts. At the very end of the show, their manager, their fake mock manager, there's a guy named Sleazy P. Martini. He comes out at the very end of the show with this big old fake plastic pompadour haircut. He's wearing his purple trademark suit. He's got these oversized jewelry on. Basically, he in the lore of Gwar, they were this band from like Antarctica, and Sleazy P. Martini found him and taught him how to play their instruments and got him all addicted to crack. You can't make this stuff up, man. But you got to see Gwar to really appreciate what I'm talking about. And for those of you that are fans, you know exactly what I'm saying, man. They were killer live. And they did come out and do an encore at the end of the set. I was able to get a copy of the actual set list from that night. Gwar came out and did Ham on the Bone, going into Ollie North, and then, of course, into Pure as the Arctic Snow. They continued rocking us with the Salamanizer, which the whole place was going nuts on that one, from Scumdogs of the Universe. Then they did Blimey. Then they did a song called You Ain't Shh, S-H-I, you know what. The Years Without Light. What a great song. Then they performed Gilded Lily, Rock and Roll Never Felt So Good, The Private Pain of Techno Destructo. Then they did Gore, another great song. I love that one. Then they did Sick of You, which is another classic by Gwar from Scumdogs. They broke into America Must Be Destroyed. Slaughterama was the song they did for their encore, and that's when Sleazy P. Martini came out with the mic, went on a big spiel, and then, of course, Gwar comes back out, and they did Slaughterama. It was insane, my friends. One of the better shows I've ever seen, really, to be honest. And I tell you, the show was great, but what happened after the show was pretty bizarre. Me and my two cohorts, again, who I can't remember because, well, age, we went to go back home to Peoria, Illinois, which was about a 2.5-hour drive north. We got about an hour away, and we decided to stop and get some like hot dogs and refreshments. We were starving because we had been drinking and partying and smoking before the show, and now it was time to get a bunch of food in us and, prepare to get home. Well, we stopped at a weird late-night convenience store that was open 24 hours in the middle of nowhere. We got off on the exit. We walk into the store. I'll never forget this. The lady clerk turned around, freaked out, put her hands up, and acted like we were going to rob the place. We didn't realize, folks, that we were still covered in blood because we had no mirror. We hadn't looked in a mirror. We didn't know. Every one of us had blood splatters all over our face. I had the worst of it. It was all over my hair, jacket, my white t-shirt. It looked like I literally walked in covered in blood. This clerk freaked out. We had to do some real quick, smooth talking like, hey, we were at a concert. They were doing fake blood. You know how the band Kiss does that? And then she finally was like, oh my God, you guys scared me to death. I thought I was going to get held up by some lunatic serial killers. It was crazy, man. It gets even crazier. Well, flashback to about a month. A month before this, yep, I admit it, I got a DUI. I was a bad boy. I got a DUI that actually ended up being an article in the newspaper. It was so insane. With me going down one-way streets and getting away from the cops, it was an article. That's another story. But what happened was I was told you can't drive your car for 6 months as part of your conditions. You got to pay all this money, all this other crap. And, volunteer hours at Channel 47 TV back in the day for my volunteer hour community service. Well, when I got back to Peoria, I decided to take a visit to see my then girlfriend, who became my wife later, Tracy. And I got in my car, which had been parked, and I wasn't driving it, but I was just too lit up and ready to go see my girlfriend. So I drove all the way from my house in the near south end of Peoria, all the way to the nice side of Peoria to visit her. And I'm knocking on her door at like 3 in the morning, and she's just like, what in the hell? And I'm still covered in blood. And we visited for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And then I thought, I got to go home. So I get back in the car, drive home. When I'm about 2 blocks from home, I get pulled over for speeding. Yep, cop lights are on me. I'm like, oh my God, I just got a DUI not even a month ago. Not supposed to be driving. I'm covered in blood, and I probably have something in my pocket that I shouldn't have. Use your imagination. Well, the female police officer got out of the car, asked me for my information. I quickly told her, look, I just had a DUI, not supposed to be driving. I went to see my girlfriend. I'm 2 blocks from home. Can you please give me a break, officer? Please don't take me to jail, because I'm going to lose my license, and I don't have the money to get out and all that. Can you believe that lady ran my stuff, through the radio control and checked out to make sure that I wasn't, something worse than I said I was. And can you believe she said to me, I'm going to give you a break today, but if I catch you driving one more time, I'm totally taking you to jail. Do not drive your car again after this. I said, I promise, I swear to you, if you let me go home. She goes, I'm going to follow you home. You're going to park your car, and you're not driving it for 6 more months. I said, yes, ma'am, and please, and thank you. And that's exactly what happened. It was one hell of a journey, man. And, I'm sure I'm leaving some of the cool stuff out. But I will tell you a joke that is very popular amongst Gwar fans. How do you hide money from a hippie? You put it under the soap. Haha. Please give this channel a like, or this video a like. Give this channel a subscribe if you would. Leave a little comment, and if you want to share it, that would be appreciated, my friends. More true rock tales coming your way soon. And Gwar does rock, man. Yeah, check him out sometime on YouTube if you've never seen any Gwar videos. It's pretty damn entertaining. Rock and roll. Have a great weekend, and catch you tomorrow with another one. Thanks, guys. Cheers.